Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. People are walking in from lunch. I'm Shiva Rajaraman, and I lead the product team for our platforms, effectively creation as well as developers and our APIs. And I'm joined here by Ibrahim, who's working on as a developer programs engineer, and Andy, who heads up engineering. And we have a special guest who'll join us in a bit. So for the purpose of this session is to do something we've actually never done before, which is to really lay out some of the areas of development around our platform that we're most excited about and give you some of those examples. And in addition to that, walk through some actual executions that are really stretching our platform in new directions and which we'd like to see more of. So with that, though, first, let me first start off with a very important announcement for today, which is that we're actually doing two things when it comes to live streaming on YouTube. One is that our live API is wild, and we'd love to see people start to use it. The second piece of it is that we're actually opening up live self-service on YouTube to a much larger group of channels. So anyone who is basically a channel in good standing and has over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, effective as of 12:45 today, can start to apply to actually live stream through the YouTube platform. In the past, I was a very restricted audience. We were really ironing things out, but we're ready to scale it out to everyone. So with that, though, there's no better way to showcase what we can do than a demo, which Ibrahim will walk through.
Hi, everyone. Today, I will actually show a small demo from one of our partners, Elgato's game capture device. So I will play a game called APO Snow, and I will show it in live on YouTube. So let's get it started. So I have my game here. And actually, the first thing I will do is I will authorize the game. So it will use my credentials and create the event on my behalf. I'm allowed access. And now I can actually change the game title. Watch me play at I/O. Maybe. I can set the maximum resolution I want. I'll see it public for now, and it will be like a gaming. And I will start streaming. Right now, it actually, our device starts capturing the audio and video. It encodes it, and it starts streaming to YouTube. While it's actually preparing the stream, let me check in my own YouTube account. And I see it's actually preparing it. I see it here. Watch me play at I/O. And in less than a minute, we'll actually see it live. And let me turn it to my game here. We'll see it's on my tablet, and I will start playing, and we'll see in a second that it will be live. And while I'm playing, actually, we will still streaming it over there. Well, it's kind of harder to play it online. I think it was easier when I was snowboarding myself, but
you were really good last night.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can do like few tricks, I guess. Yeah. Well, it was not actually like showing my real stuff here, but let's go back to our streaming, and it should be almost there. And let's see. Yeah, we are just like few seconds away, and our stream is here. In only like, I guess, 5 or 10 seconds, we'll start seeing it live. And let me actually talk about the structure I'm using today. Actually, I have my tablet, I'm playing the game, and using their device, actually, which they already use the live streaming API, it actually starts capturing the all audio and video and compresses it, and it sends it to my laptop here, and I start streaming from the laptop using the live API. Oh, we are live. That was just a few seconds ago I played it. I will keep playing it. See your move live as well. Thanks everyone. That was me, and I'm just handing back to Shiva.
Nice. Thanks for that. So thank you. That was great. It's always hard to pull these technical things off during one of these presentations, and it's amazing that we have 15 chords and this actually worked, so congrats, yeah. So what I'm going to do is walk through, again, something we're doing for the first time, which is how we look at the developer ecosystem and some areas that we're particularly excited about. But first, I just wanted to walk through some of our principles. And so one of the key things is we do want to make clear and emphasize is that we do see ourselves as a platform. And as a platform, we're really excited about people who create good applications that effectively extend YouTube and take us into verticals or domains that we as a horizontal platform may not be good at. And some of these principles are really, really key, right? So one of those is with the launch of the Analytics API, which is live effectively as well this week. We are very excited about this idea of saying, hey, YouTube is one of the greatest focus groups that's ever been created. So how can we get that data out to people who can then take it to verticals and take it to different applications and really extend it and make it useful? So one of these principles is get that data out and let people use it. We don't believe in just hoarding data and keeping it isolated to the platform. The next one is very important, which is this idea of embracing developers that really extend YouTube. For the most part, what we try to discourage more and more is just building a bunch of YouTube clones that mimic everything we do with a different brand. And we'd prefer to have people who take us into the worlds of food, the world of gaming, for example, and take us into different areas, which might actually make YouTube both better, but frankly, are something that can sustain on their own and develop a unique audience, or at least take our audience and go deeper with it. We'd like to see more of that happening in the ecosystem. For the most part, it's quite phenomenal what is out there, but building a clone app typically is hard to sustain both from a business model perspective and an audience perspective. So go a little deeper, it usually pays off. The next one, which is also very important, is that we have millions of partners who monetize on YouTube, the platform. So one of the big principles we have is that as content flows from YouTube into developed apps in the wild, preserve those creator interests too. Usually that's about monetization, but sometimes it's also about how can you start to help those creators and do something special for them. And I'll walk through some examples of that. And then finally, we'd like an experience where if you come to YouTube as a viewer and you personalize that experience, when you go into another app, take advantage of that personalization. And while we're not talking about it today, someone like Flipboard's really a good example of that. You can set up your YouTube channel in Flipboard, you can auth to YouTube, and then you can get your personalized subscriptions on YouTube right within Flipboard. And so those types of solutions are great, and rather than recurating things for users, which sometimes makes sense, sometimes it makes sense to build on the profile that someone set up on YouTube and extend it further. Cool. All right, so to start with, I thought one great example would be a media company, actually, Tastemade, that is extending our platform on all of these dimensions. And we're very excited about them because they're doing this in many different ways that really opens up YouTube to a whole new audience. And one of the things with Tastemade, even though they're a media company, it's probably the first media company that's ever existed that has more engineers than business people. So it's a great example that they actually believe in our APIs, believe in the platform, but are doing a ton of things to actually extend it. And the best way to showcase them is to actually jump into a video of an example that they've created using our platform and using our audience, but using a lot of tools that we'll go into. And it's right after lunch, so I don't mind showing you food. So this video is two people who've effectively created a cooking show by traveling around the world. And as you can see, it's very polished. The food really shines. Some nice titles and editing that goes into it. Looks a little more tasty than what we served you today. Cool, go ahead. Key jump. And what's going on behind the scenes is that Tastemade as a network is effectively saying, hey, what if anyone in the world, right, one person, two people, could effectively become the next Gordon Ramsay? What are the tools they need to get access to editing and production expertise in any region? How can they translate that to different places and create good content like this? Second piece that they're really doing is really going very deep. And they're going deep into food and travel and trying to really own that domain by creating hundreds, if not thousands, of channels in every different country in the globe, but also creating a tool set so that people can actually join a network and cross-promote and find their audience without having to do that one by one. You can almost think of them as like this platform for content apps in the food and travel space. Then finally, they do some things that we as YouTube are not so good at, right? Which is effectively building a community where that if you're an aspiring person trying to create a cooking show, you can find peers who are really good at some of the types of skills that you need to actually build a cooking show, which means you might want to find someone who's really good with a slow-mo camera because there's nothing better than showing like the spices bounce, in the pan when you kick off one of these shows. Or you might want to find someone who's really good at expert of lighting and different food angles. That's something that's going to be very hard to find in the wild unless someone builds a community around it, which is what they've done. So one of the things they've done is effectively created these community pages around every creator on YouTube. And they use our analytics API, as well as our data APIs, to get the information there. And then they extend it by effectively saying, hey, this person's a chef, this person's actually a great food editor, this person's a great food copywriter. And you can find these people in almost Kickstarter style. These projects can now be funded, which are effectively video projects around new channels on YouTube. They also do some great stuff around the analytics API. They've been in the beta program, and they've been pulling things like subscribers or views. One of the things that they'd love to see happen is that for any creator, you have a currency, a reputation that gets built up around YouTube. And so as people are looking around for people to collaborate with, like a Ukrainian chef who's effectively looking for a local community to create a good show, what they can do is look up those people and then see the videos they produced and see how many subscribers those channels and how much watch time and views those videos generated. So it's this reputation layer, specific again to food and travel, that they're adding on top of our platform. And it's exciting, and they're making the UIs work really well for anyone who might be a casual user. And next, what they've done is said, particularly with food and stuff, it makes sense to have like a magazine-style, mobile app for this. So they've taken all the Tastemade content on YouTube, using the player APIs, have put that into an app, and in turn, they do things that make sense for food. In this case, when you're watching one of these videos, you can actually see a full downloadable recipe for those videos as well, which makes perfect sense and is not something right now that's available on the YouTube platform. So it's a good example as an app, tons of videos, but they extend it to make sense for their vertical. Okay, with that, I'd like to zoom out a little bit and talk more about the developer ecosystem and some areas we're particularly excited about. And then Andy's going to come up and walk us through some showcase examples. So this is the first time we're actually doing this and actually consciously thinking about what are some of the segments we're excited about. So the labels are still rough, but I'll try to explain them. In the top left is creation. You saw things like live streaming and capture. It's very exciting for us. We'll walk you through some examples, including a guest star. On the discovery and context side, these are the true viewer consumption-oriented apps. So folks like BuzzFeed, who might be all about news and really interesting moments, they are now integrating video fluidly so to keep engagement in their apps high. Then we have folks on the enterprise side. So enterprise is very hot right now, partially because there's a lot of money flowing to it. But also, when we look to the future, we think about, tens, if not hundreds of $100 million run rate businesses being born on our platform. And in order to do that, we need platform companies out there who are building on our APIs to service those verticals. So we'll talk through a few examples of that, but Tastemade is one good example, which is how can a media company in food actually survive and also thrive on YouTube. And they're doing a bunch of things to extend that, and we'll continue that. And then finally, analytics and promotion. With the analytics API out there, as well as things like posting through the APIs, We're excited about folks who are taking our data and verticalizing it, whether it be for music, more horizontally, or cross-platform. We'll walk through some examples there. So we're going to start with creation for our showcase examples, and I'm going to invite someone to come up on stage, Jussi, to do a demo of someone doing something cool.
Hey guys, how are you doing today? Everybody excited by the Chromebook Pixel? At least I am. So my name is Jussi Laakkonen. I'm the founder and CEO of Amplifier. And at Amplifier, we're building a service called Everyplay. And Everyplay is about getting those elusive but awesome game moments out from mobile games and into YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and through those things to your friends and family to enjoy together. The reason why we're doing this is that word of mouth is the #1 way how people decide to download a new mobile game. We did a survey in March, and we found across 1,800 people that word of mouth was neck and neck to App Store, and this is corroborated by studies by EDAR, Forrester, and Nielsen. The best way to discover a game is when a friend pulls out an Android phone and tells you, you gotta play this, check it out. That moment of social proof meets, I can see what this game is about, is really, truly awesome. But the problem with this is, there's only so many times I can go out and have a latte with my friends. So instead of that, could we take this offline moment and take it online? And that's what Everyplay is about. In our survey, we also asked mobile players on how do they feel about sharing. And we were very pleased to discover that 20% say that sharing video replays from mobile games is extremely important. Not somewhat important, not quite important, but extremely important. Now that's one piece. So we know there's a set of people who want to share content, but what about video? Is this a great way to capture the dynamic nature of gaming? And we found out that yes, it is. In the same survey, we also asked them, what have you done after watching game-related video? And nearly 50% said that they had immediately decided to download the game. And also another, roughly 20% said they decided not to. So video drives decision-making, and it drives also referral to friends. Hey, you got to check this out, this crazy replay that I saw from a game. Now with that, the challenge is, how do we get an awesome replay out of bad pickies and into YouTube? And that's where Everyplay comes in. So we looked at Elgato, which is a fantastic piece of hardware, but I think it's even better if you don't need any additional software or any additional hardware. So now we're going to go into a really hairy live demo. So let's see how this plays out. So I'm going to switch over to this one. So here we have a ordinary box standard iPad mini running the latest build of Rovio's Bad Piggies. And let's turn on the sound so we can hear what's going on. So when I'm thinking about replay capture, I'm capturing something that I do not know whether it's going to be cool or bad. It's going to happen. And I'm just going to be playing a game, not thinking about really replays. And I'm just going to take a level and start playing it. So here, this is a level I two-starred already, but I thought it was such a fantastic contraption of this pig taking a ride with four-wheel vehicle, so let's go. So I'm going to send the piggy on the fly, and I'm going to tap on the capture. And we're now capturing the gameplay as it happens on the background while the user plays. No additional hardware, no additional software. It's baked straight into the game. And this is actually live on the App Store right now, so you can get Bad Piggies from Rovio with Everyplay. And now what we can do, we can check out the replay. So this is what we just recorded. And it's now on the device, and obviously the next step is to get it out from the device, so we want to share it. So we open up Everyplay, and it's sharing interface. So Everyplay is an embedded application within Bad Piggies, so we're still in the same game. We're going to give this a title, Bad Piggies. And obviously, we want to share it to YouTube. We can share it to Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to do that too. And I'm going to tap on share. There we go. So now it starts uploading. And I'm posting to Facebook, so I'm going to send it to Facebook. I'm going to send it to Twitter. And obviously, I want to also send it out to YouTube, which happens on the background. So we use the YouTube upload API so that we upload first to our own servers, and from our own servers, we upload to YouTube. So while this is being transcoded by our servers and YouTube servers, let's look quickly around Everyplay. So Everyplay is really kind of a vertically oriented solution for mobile gaming. We're building a model in which you can follow interesting game creators, replays, and discover games that you haven't maybe seen before. So this is me on Everyplay. This is my home feed, people I follow, so we have a follower model. So why don't we go and check out a replay from the popular tab. So there's a whole lot of stuff from BadBeekies, so why don't we check out this crazy contraption. This has about 100,000 views in a couple of days. So this guy built a rocket out of BadBeekies. So it's going on a flight, looks pretty good. Oh, there we go. So Jarek just favorited my tweets. I should have turned off notifications for this demo. So, and obviously, if I haven't yet played BadBeekies, I can just tap on the Install Now button, and it opens up the app sheet from the App Store, and now I can install the application. So it's kind of an embedded discovery mechanism also for the creators. One cool thing we also do, which we don't yet have on BadBeekies, but I'm going to show you very quickly, is that we have the opportunity to have the players actually provide commentary from their games that they're playing. So, well, I would show you if this loads, but it doesn't seem to be loading, so let's try again. Somebody once said that doing live demos is like playing with fire, you're going to get burned. So let's do this very quickly. If it loads, yes. And I'm going to go to my home. And so I have a very special message for all of you here at I/O, which I pre-recorded actually at the YouTube headquarters where I was yesterday. And didn't play. Let's try again. The wireless is a little bit flunky here.
This is Shadowgun, a Unity 4 game that we're using to demonstrate the performance of a game running Everyplay. And not only that, we are also demonstrating this show, the face cam. So that's me talking that lets players annotate and comment their gameplay.
So by now, I'm pretty sure we have YouTube ready with the upload that we've done previously. So I'm logged into YouTube. I'm going to go into my uploads. And there are a couple of BadBeekies replays. It seems that the latest one didn't yet make it here because it's a server-server transition, and there's a couple of encoding passes. So we're going to look at an older version that I did just yesterday. But trust me, it does work. But we cannot quite control how long it takes to YouTube to encode a video and put it online. I'm sure there's like a fast track switch I could pull, Shiva. So Everyplay is an integrated SDK that goes inside the game, automatically records the gameplay, and lets the players to share with their friends and family on YouTube and other social networks. So as a summary, so we're going to go back to this. As a summary, we're using Data API. Our roadmap is to use Data API to provide discovery, to aggregate these videos on YouTube. And we definitely are planning also to help people to bring more gaming content into Everyplay by allowing them to embed YouTube videos. We're really excited about the launch of Live. We support live broadcasting in the kind of SDK, so we're definitely going to be integrating that. And my wishlist also has annotation API, so you could actually add annotation to the videos, and portrait orientation. There's so many games on portrait orientation. Now, if you're interested in discovering a little bit more about what we found on a survey of 1,800 mobile gamers, the link is here. But you can find a presentation on that, and you can grab me outdoors. We have a food truck in the corner of 4th and Hubbard if you want to come out for a cup of coffee and more demos of Everyplay. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks, Jussi. Now I wanted to go through a few other examples of applications that showcase the full set of APIs we have and help set the stage for many of the follow-on talks that we have going on throughout Google I/O both today and tomorrow. And after that, we'll leave the floor for your questions. First app I wanted to talk about quickly is an app called Woowa Brothers from Korea. Woowa Brothers is a great example of a mobile-focused food review app. One of the things that we really like about Woowa Brothers is as you go through, you select your food, you eat your food, you rate the places you've been to. As part of the rating process, you can also take a video of the food you've just eaten, really help provide a rich example of what this restaurant is about, and upload it directly to YouTube, and then watch it directly in your feed. We think this is a great example of both our upload APIs as well as our Android Player API, and it helps both the Woowa Brothers bring a great immersive experience within their application. It also gives them a platform for distributing these videos globally through YouTube, which both draws attention to their application as well as to the restaurants featured therein. After you've had a good bit of dinner, it's time to play a few games. And of course, one great example we have of integrated capture into gameplay is FIFA 2013. I know our developer programs engineer, Jarek, is very fond of this game, especially when he's reliving the glory moments of his hometown, Wisła Krakow. So directly within the game, you can capture your greatest goal-scoring events, share them with your friends and family, and get the best bragging rights.
5 views, woohoo.
And of course, earlier I wanted to actually quickly hold up the Game Capture HD, which we demonstrated earlier with Ibrahim. So this is what the Game Capture HD actually allows you to do is take the HDMI output from any device and live broadcast it to YouTube through the live broadcast APIs that we've announced today. On the consumption side, we've also have a number of examples of great vertical integrations of YouTube content into consumption applications. A lot of folks are familiar with BuzzFeed, and BuzzFeed's goal is to surface the latest and greatest of the web, no matter what type of media it may be. And so a lot of the latest and greatest of the web can be found on YouTube, and so it makes sense for BuzzFeed to have a very, very smooth Android Player API integration, so that within BuzzFeed you can find and consume whatever media people may be talking about. And you can see here the transition where directly within the BuzzFeed app you're able to go through to and watch full screen YouTube video. Interessante is a great startup down in Argentina, which is building a way for users to collect and share content of interest to them across all types of media. And we think they're a really innovative example of using our Topics API to power some of their recommendations engine. So they're able to use the videos that you're interested in to recommend other types of content that may not even be video that's also of interest to you, and vice versa. They can use their knowledge about your interests in imagery and text media to recommend YouTube content as well. And lastly, we wanted to demonstrate SoundSlice, which shows off the integration of the Player API into a music and guitar learning application, so that as you're learning guitar, you're able to play along with your sort of favorite YouTube stars, whether that be the actual stars or just a cover band. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to Shiva, who will talk through a few other examples in our ecosystem.
Cool, we're going to shift back to the back office, and I'm going to start with analytics and promotion, and talk about some ways that people are extending our analytics API for particular domains. So one of the exciting things that's happening right now for us is that we have a lot of content networks and new media companies that are launching channels on YouTube. And one of the key value propositions they have for their networks is really to understand how to cross-promote, and also give feedback from the overall network to someone creating something cool, so that they have more ideas about what they should actually be creating that makes sense for their audience. So a great example of this is Tubular, and what Tubular is doing, in this case with Awesomeness TV, a network, is saying, hey, for any one of your channels out there, you can come into our dashboard and get a sense of who your audience is. And not only for that audience, you can start to get a sense of like who else, who in that audience is influential, but also, what other things are they also watching? And so if you think about that from a network's perspective, it's really simple. It's, hey, this is great, it's an awesome channel, I seem to have built a great audience. Who should I collaborate with? On the other side of it, it's like, what we'd like to do is start to keep extending this in terms of thinking about analytics, integrating with Topics API. What else are they watching? And that gives you ideas about what to create and who to partner with. So it's a great example of someone who's taken effectively, a basic fire hose of data that we've surfaced, blends it together and makes it work, and starts to extend it. And very importantly, they also take a look at analytics from YouTube and combine that with Facebook and Twitter and other sources so it can create a great cross-platform picture. We love to see these things out there, and they're becoming very successful because this type of knowledge is, for the most part, missing for most content creators. Now, take the same theme and take it deep into a vertical. This one's Next Big Sound. And what Next Big Sound does this not just for kind of a horizontal platform across multiple different types of creators, but goes deep into music. And they create a slightly different UI, and their UI is more focused on what's trending, in terms of songs and artists across various platforms, and they really bring that to life. So you can see here you have YouTube video views, you've got Instagram likes, and you've got basically a trend meter associated with them. The goal is that anyone can look at a particular artist, in this case Bruno Mars, right, and get a sense of a complete picture across platform about what's going on with that artist. And they've made this UI very friendly so that even, you can imagine, even the artist manager or the artists themselves being able to pop into this UI and understand it, and hopefully get some actionable insight immediately. So these are great examples of things where you just take data, you start to bring it to life and visualize it, that you can do very different things for different audiences. And we're seeing these things start to sprinkle and appear on the ecosystem, but there's so much to do here. We know there's a big theme of like big data and that type of things, but YouTube's a great example, is probably one of the biggest data sources on the planet that still has yet to be mined fully. And while our APIs are fairly new, this is the right time to start using them because we need that feedback. What can you actually do with it? What's missing from it? And we have a lot of different sessions today and tomorrow that are focused on using that API. So if you have a chance, come check them out. I'm going to jump ahead of this. Okay. The next one is getting into the enterprise side. We talked about Tastemade already. I wanted to show you another one called Zephyr, which is focused on the rights management business. And this is very, like if you'd seen our CMS, you'll say, wow, this is a huge improvement. But I think one of the key things is that when you look at someone like Zephyr, what they're doing is effectively saying, hey, we manage content for a lot of media companies out there. And we want to make it easy for them to understand, who their fans are as expressed by actually uploading YouTube content, but also, what's the ones that are most important to act on? Where are my revenue opportunities? So what they have is a team of people who come into this dashboard every day, and what they do is build based on our Content ID APIs and our Analytics APIs to put together a very good picture. And that picture is, here is content I can claim, and I can make a decision about whether to use that, to block that content, to monetize that content, or even further promote that content. And they've made a very friendly UI, which effectively creates a smart queue on top of all this data. So as a studio, I can look at this and say, what's hot, what's trending, and what's revenue opportunity, and act on it immediately. So these are things, too, where as enterprise gets more consumer-friendly, we're excited to see people actually building very robust businesses on the back ends of something that back in the day was really just thought of as a way to just block content on YouTube. Now it's actually a huge business opportunity for these people, and increasingly an opportunity to connect with your fans. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Andy for the recipe book behind this.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish off by summarizing a little bit about all the different components that go into building these applications that YouTube provides, and sort of lay out the landscape of what you can dive in to learn more about at Google I/O this week. A lot of these applications highlighted a number of our latest APIs, our live broadcasting API, our topics API, our Android player API, and our analytics APIs. And we have sessions and code labs around many of those this week. We're talking a lot about some of the things that go on behind the scenes at YouTube. This is something we haven't done at I/O before. This is something we're trying out this year, which is discussing not only code labs around the APIs themselves, but also sharing knowledge from our own engineering team around many of the development challenges and problems that come up in working with video, both to help you develop better applications, as well as to give you a sense of some of the heavy lifting and infrastructure that goes on behind the scenes supporting these APIs. We have a number of talks going into details about how we look at problems like adaptive streaming, how we look at incorporating video encoding and decoding capabilities into applications, as well as some of the user design challenges and business challenges around building these applications around these APIs. And if you remember nothing else, just wanted to kind of summarize the talk for you. A lot of what we're talking about here today is ways that we extend YouTube, not just recreate it. How do we kind of like create a larger pie for both our creators and our viewers? And we've seen a lot of people have success here by diving deep into a vertical, diving deep into a region, diving deep into these specialized areas where a broad horizontal platform like YouTube will never go on its own. We really want to empower creators. YouTube started off and still exists today as broadcast yourself. And it turns out that there's still a lot of challenges and friction points in the ecosystem and just in the tooling to create and produce video that we see needs to be met there. And lastly, a lot of the APIs we're going to be talking about this week are very new. Some of them have just launched this week. The rest have all launched within the last couple of months. While we think that they're in pretty good shape, we by no means think that they're final. And we're looking here this week to get your feedback on ways that we can improve them. So I just wanted to say thank you and leave the floor for questions. And if you have questions, please go up to one of the mics.
Hi there, Philip from Zephyr. First, I got to say, we got to get you a better screenshot. That's just embarrassing. So you talked a lot about the APIs, and our business utilizes them quite a bit. And what we keep running into problems with is the query limits, the API quota limitations, right? There's seems to be one group that's in charge of the partner, one group that's in charge of the analytics API, and another group that's in charge of the GData one, and as soon as we seem to make headway with one, then the other one we sort of lose touch with. And so as our business grows, it seems like the incremental adjustments to those API limits really sort of hold us back from actually being able to move quicker. So I'm just curious, what can we do to actually get something set up to be more reasonable and help you guys help us and vice versa, so that we don't have to keep pestering you guys every week, every month to say, hey, look, we've hit it again, now let's go.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things we're doing is trying to reorganize in some ways so that we have single points of contact for key partners, particularly as they reach a certain scale, right? And so that working through those key points of contacts, you can actually work through and start to say, here's my plan over the next 2 quarters, here are the milestones I expect to hit, and here's, instead of hitting them and then reacting, which is kind of our status quo right now, instead coming up with a plan over the next year that says that this is probably going to be our demand, we can keep a check on it, but effectively forecasting that out and supporting you accordingly. This is something we've just started reorganizing around to support in the last few months, so expect it to roll out to you, and you'll start to get in touch with some of our fantastic DevRel team, but also a new team that's coming together to be more of a partner manager. Okay.
Hi, my name is Henry Stuhl with Shelby TV. You guys have done a great job with making accessing videos on Android more accessible, I think as a new sort of API initiative in the past year or so. Do you see that moving to iOS in the near future as well, or is that mainly a Android-only direction?
So we're actually looking, we'd love to bring that to iOS as well. We're looking into ways we can do that kind of meet our needs in terms of being able to sort of provide updates in a timely way. We were able to find a solution on Android. We haven't been able to find a solution on iOS yet. That's something that's definitely top of our mind and something that we're looking into, but we don't have any sort of specific news to share there.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lei. Just a simple question for you guys. Are you considering any video post-processing stuff, like reduce the noise or bring brighter to the video content? Thanks.
In short, yes. This is actually some of this. Actually, we have one of our talks this week is around video stabilization and around some of the post-processing that we make available there. If you actually look into our upload tools, I think we've recently started to expose expose some of the controls to enable a few of those post-processing steps through our upload API. And we have a lot of great engineering teams doing research into how we can bring more of those capabilities into our pipeline and then expose those through our upload API.
Yeah, now's a great time for feedback on that, actually,
Yeah.
Particularly around the stabilization talk, but generally for us too.
And I definitely encourage you to go to the stabilization talk this week, and you'll be able to talk to the developers there and provide some feedback on what else you'd like to see.
Megan. So the GDAT APIs you have, you got V2 and you've got V3. I'm curious when V2 will be fully deprecated, just because V3 isn't completely fleshed out, so we find ourselves sort of balancing between when we make a V2 call and a V3 query call. And then the other one, so it don't have to come up here, is has to do with the freebase and the topic IDs. In terms of how those things are tagged and how frequently those are updated, like just an example being, we had a Daft Punk music video that I had in a integration test, thinking that the topic IDs were always going to stay the same, and it went from having 4 tags that were fairly specific to accurate to the last time I ran it just had 1 tag for electronic music genre. So I'm just trying to figure out sort of what the process is on keeping those updated and how much we can rely on those things.
Remind me what your first question was again?
V2 versus V3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So V2 versus V3, we're working to bring V3 up to sort of complete parity as quickly as possible. And we're not going to deprecate V2 until that's the case. And so that's the short answer there. And as we get V3 to that point, we'll kind of we'll announce it and roll it out, and expect some communication there in the next couple of months. On the topics API, I don't actually know directly myself kind of what the update process is, what guarantees we make there. I actually have Shirley and a couple of engineers from the topics team who will be giving a talk later this week, and it'd be great to ask them that question. They can go into a lot more detail there than I can.
Yeah, and I'll add one point on that. Right now, we kind of give you one central topic around a video, right, through the API. So one of the things we want to do is, we don't have a specific date on this, go to that session and provide them feedback, but expand the number of topics. The issue is that centrality can shift over time for many of these things. And one becomes a meme and something else happens, we get more metadata. So what we want to do is give developers effectively a broader spectrum of the topics associated with video, such that you can rank and decide what's important for you and have more stability.
Yeah, I noticed there's another common map, 2, 3, some videos have like up to 7 topic rankings on them.
Right.
How much of focus is or support for TV devices? And I ask in particular because this week you launched pay-for channels, but none of those videos actually work on like Google TV devices.
Yeah, and you're talking specifically about consumption, not developers building for a TV. Is that correct?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yep. So we're rolling that out. That will be coming on TV devices. That's actually, it's available on some of our devices today. That'll be coming out to Google TV devices very soon. And when it comes out to Google TV, it will also be baked into the Android Player API, which works on Google TV as well. So this one, you've got about 8 different platforms out there. Getting them all launched on the same day is pretty tricky.
Right. And to add some color to that, like as we think about distribution of the YouTube app on a variety of TVs, one thing we've not focused on is creating like a specific SDK for TV developers outside of the Google TV app space. We're trying to focus more on getting our app commonly used with access to all content available on all platforms right now. Many of those platforms, as you probably know, just aren't sophisticated to support a great developer ecosystem today.
Hi, I'm John from OpenSlate. Little detailed question, but it causes a lot of pain for us, and we're very, very concerned about it, is migration from user IDs to titles. We've heard that user IDs are going to go away. Titles are the way to go in the future. We've already seen evidence that folks are changing titles to be pretty much like titles of web pages, so they don't provide a lot of information, and certainly not a business link back to the owner of the channel. Of course, we have the unique ID on the other side, but the user ID has been the key really for quite a long time. And the biggest problem that we see here is the fact that over on the AdX side, in the RTB callout, if you want to target against a specific channel, the placements are still the user IDs. Is there anything we can talk about now, or is that too detailed for this conversation?
We should have probably a separate discussion and go through some of the use cases. Like obviously, some of the things we're doing have to do with unifying our account structure across Google+, YouTube, generally across all of Google. And that's going to open up new opportunities, right? But we're also going to start to move from users to multi-channels and different types of relationships, which might complicate things further. And so maybe for the sake of this room, we can just talk for a little bit right after.
Okay, is it for certain that user ID it's 100% certain that's going away?
Well, effectively, the notion of a one-to-one mapping between user IDs and channels is going away.
Right, yeah. In terms of the right thing to target on, we should have a deeper discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Danilo from the ADC, Loot Entertainment. I actually know Jarek and Jussi from Everyplay. Very interested to see the whole combination because I work in a company that makes games, Jarek knows our game development on game consoles, and we also do video app development. So I'm very interested to see when this whole thing will be coming to Android and what kind of multiplayer and live streaming multiplayer support could be coming from Google and YouTube as APIs, just because the new Google Play game services, just trying to put all of those things in just like one awesome app that, you will be playing a game and will be streaming that live. And at the same time, your friends will be able to spectate that experience, But I think we need to work with multiple areas inside of YouTube and Google to make that work. So we just would like to see and hear from you guys what would be your support for live streaming gaming and multiplayer support from YouTube.
Okay, I think, there's two pieces to this. One is our live APIs are obviously available now, and we expect to see a lot of people using them to actually make that live streaming case from any game as effectively possible today. Starting today, I should say, with a few exceptions who started a little bit earlier. And so in terms of how that integrates with the broader Google Play SDK and what's there available for a game and whether that's turnkey and how much of that's tied to that specific graph and that type of thing, you do have to work with multiple people, but you do have a group, particularly, can the DevRels actually stand up? It's, they're, who are doing a lot of stuff here and kind of spanning a lot of different areas too. So it might be really interesting to talk a deeper session, what you're trying to achieve, and see if the existing APIs do it, or at least there's a good recipe book for how to use the multiple APIs that are available and make it happen.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Mike from Collective Digital Studios. One of the big things a lot of our users want is the full list of their subscribers. And we've had, notice that you can get it through channel list, but there's been issues with it. I think it's capped at 1,000 is last I heard. Is there plans to be able to get back your full subscriber list?
Yeah, there is. Do you know where it is, Jarek? I'll call you on the spot. Yeah. So we're doing two things. One is a lot of those enterprise use cases you have through the analytics API can page through a whole subscriber list, right? So I need to double check and make sure there's no cap on that, but our principle is not to cap it, right? Okay. So if you do actually want to use that, makes sense. Some of the issues we might have, are particularly around what's the minimum cluster size you can have for your subscribers before you can do audience analytics on that cluster. And that's more of a privacy protection issue. Sure. But in terms of getting the public subscriber list, we know it's been frustrating. If you're looking at what some folks are doing, they're crawling and/or getting it partially through the API. The goal is to release the full list, but you can actually follow up with me and I'll get you the right answer.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
Hello, Romain Sinal from France 24 News TV channel. We've been trying to integrate the live broadcasting to our process, our workflow. We are very concerned about the fact that we have to create an event each time we have to broadcast something, and when we want to stream our channel never changes the configuration we are broadcasting to changes every time we create an event. Do you plan to create like stable sources we can broadcast how would I say continuously?
You want a single event ID that you reuse? Is that basically?
Yeah.
Or?
We could like broadcast continuously to the same server, and then we could create events based on the same on this source.
I can get that question. We are not supporting up to 24 hours, but actually we are enabling it to go actually longer, and then you don't need to change the event. You can only have one event, and this will event actually go over 24 hours, and so you don't need to change the event from now on. So we are actually will enable it soon, and we are working on it.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, hello, my name is Gabriel from fanbridge.com. When can we expect a deeper integration between the Google Plus API and the YouTube API? We have been trying to play with like logging content for subscribers based on Google Plus circles, but in some ways you need the user to be able to do that programmatically, but we didn't find a way, even listing that, even asking that in the YouTube API, the answer was there is something that we are working on, but we don't have any dates yet for it.
I think is the question about whether get these same, like through the YouTube API, get the
like the integration. You have features that you can where you can use both YouTube and Google Plus, but still you cannot use them through the API. I mean, are you doing releases based on that, or like the focus is on the analytics API?
Yeah. So one, you should just talk about how we're approaching API based development. And in terms of the specific Google Plus versus YouTube, we're in the process of getting people to connect these accounts so that we have single graphs. And until that happens and keeps getting progress, right, it's hard to expose it all through one source. But our goal right now is to have channels backed by Plus pages. There's a lot of other discussions happening on that as well, so that these start to look more similar, and these objects have mappings that we can actually then start to expose.
Thanks.
But in the meantime, building on APIs, absolutely, but this is the guy, yeah.
Hey, I'm Mark from Pixability. I'm wondering, are you planning on having an AdWords for video API? Or is there any movement towards that, or any sort of kind of developer tools around those, creating campaigns and things like that?
There's some progress on that front, right? We're not the experts in that actually, though, but I can follow up with you.
Great.
Okay.
Hey, I think a quick question. Have you guys considered, or is there a way for you to return the cost in V3 for individual queries so we could do a little better housekeeping on our end, or accounting, I guess, properly on our end to know how we're doing? Or maybe that's reflected in us not having a perfect understanding of what things cost.
This is cost as it relates to quota enforcement.
Yes.
And
Yes. Sorry.
I think that's a pretty good feature request. I don't know if we've. Hey, it's definitely a feature request we've looked at in the past. I'm looking at Yarrick to see if we've done anything about that now, but
no.
What?
It's just, but no specific one. Okay, it's a good feature.
Basically, we have some practices, but it's not structured data at the moment.
Yeah. You want a per query type cost, effectively, yeah.
Hey, Noah from FanBridge. As you guys build up this crop of people who aren't necessarily content partners, but are serving those people, certain parts of the API fork to let only data access to content partners. Are you guys thinking about merging those together? So someone who isn't a content partner but has content partner clients can still access that same data.
Right, and this is for the cases where you're not trying to get your own data, right? You're just trying to use YouTube as a data source across all the content. Is that correct?
So if an MCN is a client, we can show them, their earnings data and things like that that are only available through content owner APIs.
Oh, without having access to their auth, or?
With their auth, but we're not the content owner. We're not an MCN.
Yeah, so we do have, I don't know if Yark, you can talk about that, but it's effectively like acting on behalf of, right? So that's something we're working on right now.
As it relates to V3 calls, part of the best practices includes using e-tags, and so, and I can see why you'd want us to do that, but there doesn't seem to be any benefit on the actual quota that, so I can have a bunch of things, query e-tags, get a bunch of 304s back, but it still seems to eat into my quota the same as if I didn't even use an e-tag. Is there going to be a change in that, or is that, what's the advantage of me using an e-tag then if it doesn't really help my quota, I guess is the point I'm trying to ask.
Specifying a part and getting less quota accordingly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest advantage right now is in the data transfer and kind of just like being able to get the response faster. In many cases, being able to generate a 304 still requires just as much back-end work. And so, I think that's kind of reflected through the cost.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to have to cut it off now. Okay. So thanks, everyone. We'll definitely follow up with the quota stuff. And people had some specific questions we couldn't answer. Feel free to shoot me a note, and we'll follow up. Thank you all.